This week on Government Matters.
We have this tremendous challenge and a tremendous opportunity to take that data and really add to mission performance in the government. And that's what it's all about.
The top tech execs of industry and government collide at the 23rd Executive Leadership Conference.
Our goal here is to definitely fix this thing and make sure it's working and meet people's expectations, because I can promise you our expectations are even higher than those outside of government.
Federal CIO Steve Van Rokel offers a defense of healthcare.gov.
But I do think it is a little bit like a strike team approach.
The Presidential Innovation Fellows put their skills to use. Government Matters starts right now.
From ABC 7 and News Channel 8, this is Government Matters.
Thanks for joining us. Government is the engine that runs this city. That's why Government Matters. Every Sunday we'll bring you the week's top headlines in tech, security, and management. I'm your host, Morris Jones. Topping headlines, lawmakers criticized the flawed security clearance system this week. In September, it granted access to Navy Yard shooter Aaron Alexis. Contractors admit Alexis slipped through the cracks, as Scott Thuman reports.
You looked at Alexis's background check.
Yes, we did. Well, would you like me to talk about the Alexis?
Well, I mean, you can, but I mean, the information's out there.
But that information about the Navy Yard shooter should have been found sooner. Background checks, this frustrated group says, need drastic improving.
We have 8,400 people with clearances that don't follow the law when it comes to paying their taxes. The American people ought to be asking, what in the world's going on?
In fact, 1 month's audit of top secret background checks show 87% of 3,500 reports were missing information like employment verification. 12% didn't even include subject interviews, despite the average investigation costing $4,000.
For $20, you can get 90% of the information on the internet.
They suggest reinvestigating clearance holders randomly, twice every 5 years, and believe it could have alerted them to Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning, who leaked military documents, and most recently, Aaron Alexis.
There's going to be more money will be involved, but for our safety, I think it's very important.
Sabrina Akins works in security and government contracting.
Just some people are going to slip through. Unfortunately, there's only so much you can do without impinging upon everyone else who might have had one DUI. So it's a catch-22.
But to what end?
We are giving the impression that all these millions of people who have security clearances, we've checked them out. We have no idea if that's true. We are clueless.
Some very similar recommended changes were supposed to take place all the way back in 2005, but did not. So this committee said it's going to keep a very close eye on following up with any progress. In the meantime, I talked with D.C. Mayor Vincent Gray today. He told me that unless we also increase scrutiny on background checks for gun purchases too, all this is just an exercise in talking. At the Navy Yard, Scott Thuman for Government Matters.
The Navy can finally move forward with its next generation enterprise network. Federal News Radio reports the GAO has upheld the Navy's $3.5 billion award to HP. Two companies, Harris IT and CSC, filed protests this summer. CSC withdrew their protest in August. Harris lost their protest just recently. The federal government says last year it hired the highest percentage of military veterans in more than 2 decades. Vets made up 29% of nearly 200,000 new employees. The Defense Department led the way. 46% of their new hires are military veterans. The Social Security Administration, the VA, and the Transportation Department also posted big numbers. The ongoing battle between IBM and AWS over a $600 million cloud contract for the CIA appears to be over. FCW reports IBM has withdrawn the injunction it filed in federal claims court last month. Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius apologized for the botched health care rollout on Capitol Hill this week. The site was also a topic at this year's Executive Leadership Conference in Williamsburg, Virginia. Federal CIO Steve Van Rokel called the launch a teachable moment.
One of the key things I want to note, and this doesn't get a lot of coverage and a lot of discussion out there in the public, is the boldness by which the approach was taken on this project. We should all be proud of the fact that something this complex, this integrated to legacy systems, and there are mainframes out there that this thing hooks to, was done at internet scale and taken online in this way. I mean, just the fact that we have transactions moving between federal agencies using open data, using modular development, using technology in a way that moves really from a 19th and 20th century government paper approach to an online approach is something we all should be proud of in the federal IT community. And thinking about that boldness is key to where we go forward.
The ELC is one of the top government IT events of the year. The list of speakers also included futurist Michio Kaku, DHS Deputy Secretary Rafael Boris, and GSA Administrator Dan Tangherlini. I attended the conference along with our Government Matters crew. We'll introduce you to several more leaders later in the show. Now some top names making headlines this week. The Senate has approved campaign fundraiser and former lobbyist Thomas Wheeler as chairman of the FCC. They also approved Catherine Archuleta to lead the Office of Personnel Management. Deltek has canceled its Fed Focus 2014 event without much explanation. Washington Business Journal reports the company says unpredictable circumstances caused the cancellation. Instead, Deltek will host a free webinar later this month. We'll turn from headlines to tech, straight ahead on Government Matters. NOAA uses tech to predict and monitor events like Hurricane Sandy, but the agency's future lies in supercomputers. I'll talk with their CIO next. In Tech Matters, the digital transition at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Nearly every other agency uses the information that NOAA collects, like weather and environment-based data. That list includes the intelligence community. Now, NOAA is in the middle of a major transition from paper to all digital. I discussed IT strategy with CIO Joseph Klimovich. Your agency has a $5 billion budget. What are your spending priorities regarding IT?
I think the first thing is supercomputers, making sure that we've got the right supercomputing capacity in place, both on the operational side. So we've got operational supercomputers. We've also got research and development supercomputers. And that's a constant effort to make sure those are current and supporting our mission. I think on the other areas is trying to buy as many services as possible, trying to move as much to the cloud. And then cybersecurity is another big priority. That's certainly getting a lot of attention in the government and in the media, but it's a constant struggle to keep current with cybersecurity. So it's really supercomputers, cybersecurity, and trying to build as many shared services as possible to provide and deliver outstanding IT services at a very reasonable cost.
Let's talk about procurement and cloud computing. How can agencies maximize their effectiveness through the cloud?
I've said this many times that I would prefer to buy our IT services to the maximum extent. I don't feel compelled to buy servers, configure servers. If somebody else already has a solution in place, I like to leverage that solution, whether it be another government agency or the private sector. Ultimately, the private sector is one of the, maybe has the best economies of scale because you're sharing it that solution across a larger population. I think we've taken incredible advantage of software as a service in a whole host of areas. We're now trying to figure out how to move our applications, our mission unique applications, to the cloud to free up space and to, again, gain greater economies of scale.
This month, NOAA announced it would stop printing nautical maps. No more hard copies. Where's the digital transformation going these days?
Well, I see everything transitioning to the digital media. I think that at some point we're going to have to stop across the federal government in terms of hard copy, paper, and I think that a lot of the technologies that are emerging from the industry are going to make that transition a lot easier. I think. Digital paper is going to make it a lot easier. I think the other thing it's all predicated on is having a good network, a good wireless network, a robust wireless network, and that's when you don't have volumes of hard copy readily available, you're very much dependent upon that network, and that's key.
You're responsible for NOAA's Homeland Security program. How does NOAA work with the intelligence community?
Well, we have folks that sit down at the NOAA staff that sit down at DHS's Ops Center. And that's really, if you think about it, an integration point where our information will come together with other agencies, and we look to DHS to be the integration point. We put out all of our information via the web, and we have direct feeds to certain agencies, but by and large, any kind of integration for certain events and so on will take place via DHS Ops Center.
We'll turn from tech to security, straight ahead on Government Matters. German Chancellor Angela Merkel could have used some help from our next guest. We'll talk secure communications on the 4G LTE waveform. Next. In security matters, the future of cell phone privacy. The topic was highly visible this week after new revelations from former NSA contractor Edward Snowden. According to leaked documents, the NSA monitored the cell phones of up to 35 world leaders. Meanwhile, secure solutions for wireless mobility is a new and growing field. It's a topic I discussed at the Executive Leadership Conference with Randy First, president of OSIUS Networks. Without giving away any trade secrets, how do you do that and how difficult was it?
Well, it was difficult. There's a lot of complexity when you talk about not only securing the 4G LTE waveform, but also securing the data that resides on a cell phone or a handset. And so what we had to do was bring commercial off-the-shelf technology and tie that into an architecture that we worked with the National Security Agency on to secure the LTE waveform and the handset itself.
Is there a lot of competition in this field of secure communications?
Yes, there is. There are a number of other companies out there that are attempting to do the same thing. We were just fortunate where we had a Navy pilot that we started a year ago, and part of that pilot was to be able to operate at the secret level. And so I would say that we got a head start on the competition, but there are clearly other solutions out there as well.
Is there somebody like you on the other side of the fence trying to secure cell phones that nobody can listen to, including the NSA?
I think technology is advancing all the time, and different architectures are being developed. You know, can you design a network that is what you would say can't be hacked? I don't. In my professional career, I've never seen that. There's always a way. It's always about time and your ability to defeat various types of, whether it's an encryption algorithm or whatever. You know, the proverbial back door always seems to be there. And so in my career, I've never seen anything that says that's 100%, you'll never break into that. I've never seen it.
Is there anybody better than the NSA at this?
In my 30 years in this field, they are probably the leaders in understanding encryption and cryptologic science.
What happens next in terms of secure communication technology?
In my estimation, we're in early adoption phase in the market for bringing ultra-secure 4G LTE solutions to the market. You know, we are using a set of algorithms they call Suite B, and it's a well-known, they're well-known, and so our objective is to go up to higher levels of security. You know, and that's important not only for the Department of Defense, but you know, if you've got other types of environments out there, like banking environments, you know, you want to make sure that your transactions are secure. There's a lot of enterprises out there that want to make sure that their information remains secure in a wireless ecosystem, and I think those are the strides that we're making in working with industry partners to come up with durable, secure architectures.
We'll turn from security to management straight ahead on Government Matters. The Presidential Innovation Fellows seek to harness new ideas and technology to remake government. I talk White House strategy and Marvel Comics with Commissioner Lena Trudeau next. In management matters, the Presidential Innovation Fellows Program. Some of the top minds in the private sector, nonprofits, and academia enlist in a 6 to 13-month tour of duty with the federal government. Together, they tackle some of the nation's biggest problems. It's a topic I discussed with Associate Commissioner Lena Trudeau. Strategic innovation is a great term, but how do you apply that in real-life situations with the federal government?
It's a great question. You know, strategic innovation, if you look at it, can sound kind of academic. And what we're doing in my organization is not really theoretical at all. It's very practical. We're taking people with unique skill sets that aren't today found in quite the concentration we'd like them to be found in government in the future. And we're leveraging those skill sets, partnering with other agencies to solve real problems. And the very pragmatic piece of it is we're delivering product all the time and iterating, prototyping so that people can interact with what we're actually developing. So strategic innovation is a lovely label, but it might be a little bit of a misnomer.
How critical is partnering?
Absolutely critical. I mean, right now we have 43 Presidential Innovation Fellows who've come in the latest round, in round 2. They started in the middle of June. And we're partnered with 18 different federal agencies. Those agencies are the folks that have suggested problems that they'd like the fellows to come in and solve. We don't start by recruiting fellows first. We start by working with agencies to find out what big problems they want to go work on. And we choose the ones that are best aligned with the goals of the program. And there are some pretty thorny challenges, right? Like how to make sure that citizens have access to their own health data, how to make sure they have access to their own energy data so that that can drive different behaviors. And maybe we can build or foster the building of ecosystems of applications around that. Those are big things.
I see this like you're the Avengers, you're superheroes going in to help and fix the federal government. Do you see yourself that way?
Not at all. Not at all.
Not the Avengers,
That's
huh?
really nice, though. Thank you. But I do think it is a little bit like a strike team approach, right? Where very fast-moving methodologies, people with really unique skills, very specific skills that are appropriate to the kinds of problems we're trying to solve are deployed. We work in teams, we collaborate across, and we do things really quickly. And we leverage, the way we like to say it is leveraging the low cost of experimentation to make sure that we drive better results.
Well, who brings in the best innovation, outsiders or insiders?
Yes, and it's really a both, I think. And outsiders can seem like a pejorative word. Really, any long-standing challenge, though, is going to benefit by applying people with a different perspective, right? When you bring a diversity of view, a diversity of skill sets, a diversity of perspective to the table, that's where you really start to get dots connecting and things firing in a different way than they have before. The same people who've been staring at a problem for months or years are not necessarily the folks that are going to be able to see it differently. And that's not a criticism, it's just a fact.
Now let's meet one of the fellows Trudeau just described. Greg Godbout works on the RFP-EZ project. It's a web-based application that makes it easier for the government and small businesses to buy and sell to one another. We talked about how government can make software work. Greg, you're a Presidential Innovation Fellow and operator of the Arlington Cinema Draft House. How do the two come together there?
See, it makes sense to me, but it doesn't make sense to many other people. So I have had years of work in the IT industry. So it's that work that brings me into the Innovation Fellowship program. But the innovation we've done at the Draft House, from entertainment, to me, it's all the same. Everything's media, whether it's a software application you're using or whether it's people coming to see a movie. The behavior is the same. You want to attract users to your system to make it a successful software system, just like you want to attract people to a movie theater to see a movie or see comedy. So it's all about media, really, at the end of the day.
How do you do business with the federal government? A lot of people think this is a huge, expansive organization, which it is. People get very frustrated and they leave early on. How does it work?
I think you make it easier, just make it easier to find the jobs, or the opportunities, right? So if you could search and find those opportunities quicker, then you're more inclined to take steps to work with the federal government. If you knew every opportunity that was available to your business, then you would be more inclined to research, what do I have to do to win that, right? What do I have to do to sign up and do it? And I think really that's the first step. It's encouraging the communication and the step towards it. You know, it's a communication really discussion.
You talk about a waterfall project, a waterfall concept in terms of big software programs. Explain that.
Waterfall is typically how government has built projects in the past, and it's essentially that you do all of this requirements gathering up front. You spend all this time with consultants gathering information. You then go into the building phase, and it's sort of like you go away for a while and build out the software, and then you deliver it some point in the future. And the results of that has been historically, these projects have failed. In fact, in the commercial world, waterfall failed so frequently, the commercial world has switched to a process called Agile, which is to say, get a pilot in front of the user. You know, I talked about it's important to draw users to your systems. If users don't use the systems, they fail, right? So get a pilot in front of the user who you want to use your system and get their input right away. And it's called getting to a failure fast, right? Mm-hmm. To say, what's wrong with it, let me fix it. Because by the time you deliver in a waterfall project a year, and in some cases in government 2 years down the road, the chances of problems not being picked up is tremendous. But if you iterate all the way through and have the user actually using the system all the way through, you're going to find a situation where your chances of success are great because they've already bought in, they've been using it.
We'll turn from management to final matters straight ahead. Thanks for being with us. I'm Morris Jones. Your week is filled with other matters. Save Sundays for us.